Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Welcome to Ask Rob and Rob. Thank you for joining us for 2 more listener questions and 2 more answers. Those questions coming up in just a sec. But it's so easy, Rob, to send your question our way.
It certainly is. We've collected it in all one lovely place for you. If you go to propertyhub.net/ask, you can find our number. You can leave a message directly there. And you can also leave questions for our weekly column in the Sunday Times. What a lovely collection. And you could do it all at propertyhub.net/ask. So if you have a question, make sure you get it in there.
Okay, let's have a listen to our first question from Jeremy.
Hi Rob and Rob, it's Jeremy from Hertfordshire here. I've got a property where my tenants have given notice and the letting agent has suggested that I offer a no deposit scheme rather than just requiring a deposit to be taken at the start of the next tenancy. I'd never heard of no deposit schemes up until now, and I found a few articles about the pros and cons from a tenant's perspective, but I haven't really found much from a landlord's perspective. And I was wondering if you could help me by providing some information about what the pros and cons are for a landlord in going down this route. Many thanks. Bye.
Jeremy, thank you for the question. These schemes are relatively new, so it's not like there's lots of information and lots of stories out there that you can go and look at to make a decision. I've personally never used one, and I prefer not to. And there's a couple of reasons for that. The first is that from the tenant's perspective, I think psychologically there's a difference between paying for this effectively insurance scheme and actually having a meaningfully large amount of their money held aside, which only gets released back to them if they fulfill their obligations. I can't prove that. It's not going to be the same for everyone, but I do think there's a difference. So I believe that by taking a traditional deposit, you're more likely to have tenants playing ball. Also, as a kind of a side point from that, is that the main reason that you'd opt for a no deposit scheme is that the property will then appeal to tenants who would struggle to find a deposit. And while that is a good thing for them, and I'm very aware of how difficult it is that you often have to pay out another deposit before you've got your previous one back, from a selfish perspective, I'd still rather have tenants who are on more of a secure financial footing because it suggests that they'd have more resilience if they were to encounter any issues that made it difficult for them to pay the rent. The second reason that I prefer not to use this scheme is that, like I said, it's basically an insurance policy. And with insurance, you never really know if you're going to get paid out or not. When you're taking a traditional deposit, you still need to protect it with a scheme, and you need to take an inventory and you need to gather evidence for any deductions you want to make. So it's not just a free-for-all, you can do whatever you want, but there are rules which are relatively clearly defined. Whereas insurance schemes basically run on paying out as little as they possibly can, and I'm not clear on what the rules or the position would be if I had something that I thought I was entitled to be paid and they disagreed. So Jeremy, given a choice between the two, I would always just take a normal deposit. But if you do have a property that would otherwise struggle to attract applicants, which is probably not the case in this market, but if you did, then it is something to consider. But just do make sure you look into the specific scheme and its rules and conditions very carefully.
There you go, Jeremy. Hope that is helpful. Next up, we have Luke.
Hi Rob and Rob, it's Luke here from South Wales, long-time listener, actually called in a few years ago about a potential tenant that wanted to take 5 dogs into the house. I'm not sure if you remember. You'd be glad to know, obviously I didn't take a tenant with 5 dogs. The house has been let out to 2 tenants since and it's been great. My wife and I now have 3 buy-to-lets in the South Wales area and we're currently looking to move into a 4th. So we've got the idea to diversify now rather than keep all of our eggs in the sort of South Wales area, even though it has been good. Based on a bit of research and listening to yourselves, we're considering Manchester. Been doing a little bit of research about the various areas of Manchester, I suppose. We're looking for a 2 to 3 bed in the region of sort of between 130 and 170,000 pounds. Just wonder if you had any recommendations. I know you're both big fans of Manchester and potentially could even look to use the Property Hub Invest feature. I have to do a bit of research, but obviously I'm not sure if you guys do sourcing as well. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Manchester essentially and any areas you recommend that are good right now? Thanks.
Luke, yes, we are a bit mad for it when it comes to Manchester. But actually, it's not because we just love Manchester the place. If you've experienced the weather there, it's certainly not that. But it's just always been such a strong performer. And with so much potential and so much investment going in, it very much feels like the capital of the North. So much is happening in Manchester. And you can't get enough rental stock in Manchester because so many people are moving there. There's so much demand. So, based on that, what you should do? Well, yes, you've mentioned that we have our company, which might be able to help. That's Property Hub Invest. You can find out more through propertyhub.net/invest. However, like many other people, you can do this yourself. like we always do, I'll give away the knowledge and my expertise. So based on the values of properties you're looking at, I don't think the city centre is going to be for you. You might be able to pick up a property in that price range, but it's not going to be the type of property you want. So you're going to be looking at Greater Manchester. Now, don't let that put you off, because Manchester city centre is obviously famous, and I'm sure you and others would be more comfortable investing there. But the Greater Manchester region is doing so well. And that's, of course, because of the ripple effect. If you think about London and the surrounding areas that have done so well, that's the same reason. And the ripple effect from Manchester city centre is absolutely benefiting all these areas around. Now, Greater Manchester, when you type it into Google, you'll find is quite a large area. So where should you invest? Well, there's loads of good places, I'm pleased to say. And I'm going to give you some now, but there's more that you could add. You could look at places like Stockport, close to the airport, great commuter lines. Bolton, absolute gem of a place to invest right now. So much investment going in there as well. You could also look at Wigan, another place with great fundamentals and great potential. It's an area that maybe not on a lot of people's radars right now, but another area that we like. And all of these areas, particularly Bolton and Wigan, will get you a great property for the sort of budget that you're looking at. Because as you would have heard Rob and I talk about many times, we look to find the better properties in any area that we go to. And for the budget that you're working with, in Bolton and Wigan, you will get one of those properties. Stockport, it may not stretch as far because the prices have risen quite a bit over the last few years, but still worth a look. So Manchester, I would rule out. You never know, but I would probably rule out. I would be looking at Greater Manchester, but Rob and I identified that as one of our hotspots earlier this year, and it still very much is one of our hotspots, a great place to invest. Of course, as always, do your research, whether you're working with our company or others or doing it by yourself. Just always do your own research. Take responsibility. So yes, by all means, take this high-level advice that I've given, but please do your research. But those areas are a great place to start that research. Good luck.
Thank you for those questions. We'll be back to answer more questions next week, and we'll be answering questions in the Sunday Times, of course, on Sunday. But before then, we'll see you for the Property Podcast on Thursday. Until then, have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.